So playing in church was the main thing, you know, but still, it was like, by them times, it was like Chic, it was like Earth, Wind and Fire, it was like the Commodores, you know, and to be honest, apart from the songs that I heard sung in church, I did not hear a lot of what we would know now as gospel music. I heard it was, you know, so I'd go home and I remember I'd buy a few of these Chic albums and stuff as well, knowing that if my dad ever caught me, I'd know about it basically.
I'm always listening to the radio, listening to Chic and Earth, Wind and Fire and Bob Marley and I know you might laugh, there was bands called Sweet, Mud, Shawaddy Waddy, Blondie. I was influenced by all these bands, starting to listen to Eric Clapton, a lot of white orientated music, but it was all good music for me. I just loved it all. It weren't just the black music I was listening to, it weren't just gospel music I was listening to a lot of white influenced pop music. I can make a lot of references to them. And then obviously I grew up, there was the likes of Andre Crouch, Walter Hawkins, were very big, Jesse Dixon. These guys were like really big at the time. Leon Patillo. You know, you can look these guys up. And then there was guys like Maze, and they all had a similar sound. So you had the gospel, you had Maze, you had Chic, you had Earth, Wind and Fire, you had Blondie, you had Shawaddy Waddy. And if you listen to all these music, there's an element of groove to all these music, and I was listening to them, I was listening to them, soaking it up and playing them.
We could listen to the radio, we could watch Top of the Pops.
Oh gosh, religious?
With Dad involved as well. Definitely not so much Mum.
I don't think she even knew it was on.
No, that was our thing.
Yeah, that was our thing together, and my dad was always singing because he could, he had a fantastic voice. And so he'd be singing like Shy Lights and Stylistics. Hey there, lonely girl.
Falsettos.
And he could do that up in that range.
Yeah.
So that's where the vocal skills came from, I think, for us. Like,
sorry, Mum.
The struggle for me was in church, you played church music. So it was strictly gospel music. All the time I was listening to all the soul stuff that was on the radio, you know, all the Philly sound, all of the soul stuff that was coming on Earth, Wind and Fire. I was a massive fan of Earth, Wind and Fire. I just loved Al McKay's guitar, all of that stuff. And I was listening to it, practicing it, and found no place for it in church until I started to get younger musicians in and started to say, let's try some of this on the choruses. And it was like, oh, okay. So you can transfer some of that stuff. What I didn't know was that that was church music that soul guys were playing. And that most of the guys that you hear doing soul music, I didn't even understand at the time that they were from church. They were all church guys. So it wasn't the world influencing the church, has always been the church influencing the world. That's what we need to understand.
But yeah, I remember Tony being at Paul's house and me telling them my story, and they were like, God, I'd like to meet these guys. They were really, because by that time I could play Chic bass lines, like Good Times, I Think I Want Your Love, was one of the ones, which I actually learned off Errol, because Errol, though he could play guitar, he could play bass a bit, and keys. So I think I learned that more off him, just listening to him doing it, and I could play. So I suppose for those guys, they were seeing this little 11-year-old playing Chic bass lines, which I thought nothing of. It was just, I learned it, I could play it. So, and they were like, wow, and they really encouraged me.
With these secular influences on my music styles, it was always there. What we did, we brought it into church, because the majority of church people would have known that bass strip came from Chaka Khan. You know what I mean? That bass line came from Bob Marley. So we kind of like subtly influenced what we was doing by listening to other styles of music. And there was also like a good banter. So every so often, I mean, loads of keyboard players would come together and we'll sit around the keyboard, and especially at conventions, if there's about 4 or 5 keyboard players, we would all come together after, at the end of the sermon, and we'll all show off, look, this is what I can do. And then it was like, that's where music sharing took place, really. Drummers would play, exchange, how did you do that? And that's, like today, it's a YouTube, but back in those days, it was more like conventions, concerts. That was your opportunity to really shine and develop your music, your ability. But the music influences on my music was always there, from classical, jazz, and even from other people that, like for example, Earl Allen introduced me to jazz funk. So, certain stuff he would do. He left church very early, about 16, but he was always into jazz funk, and he brought me to listen to George Duke and those jazz funk kind of stuff, musical styles.
It was a lot of gospel stuff. It was mainly gospel until I turned teenage years, when from influence from other churches, like for the Prophecy guys, they would be introducing me to jazz, music, and stuff like that, or other guitarists. I remember from about 16, 17, I started to pick up music myself, listen to guitarists like George Benson.
So when I met your brothers, and I remember it was about late 70s, early 80s, probably, I think mid to late 70s. We lived a street apart. We lived on George Street. You guys lived on Homer Street. And I went to see Glenn. We used to see him every night. And he said, I want you to listen to this. And he was playing this music, never heard it before. I said, who's this woman singing? It was Chaka Khan. Couldn't believe it. And he said, this is the sound I want to play. And a little bit later, we heard of a group called the Brothers Johnson, bass players. And again, Glenn introduced me to them. And I'm thinking to myself, there's something there. At that time, we were having conventions. And our convention season for our church started about January. It went through to April. And what used to happen, you had popular songs or popular choruses that were played in each district. So depending on when your district convention was, by the time these songs had got to your district convention, most people knew them and they were just ordinary. So by that time, I began to play away from my local church and in conventions. I think I was playing in national conventions when I was about 14. National conventions.
You'd have been 17.
Yeah,
17.
Definitely about 14. And I remember having a discussion with, I think it was me, Trevor, and Glenn at the time, because our convention was a bit late that year, and they were saying, we've been hearing these choruses through the different conventions, so we need to try and do something different, because like most musicians, when you're bored of the song, you're bored of it, and you don't have no feeling to it. So I remember hearing some tunes, I can't remember what they were, and something said, take the riff from this and apply it to this chorus. And he just flipped it on the head. And then we started doing that. So when they came to convention, because the convention, again, people came to hear the word of God, but people who were interested in music, they came to see what we do.
Yes.
So big competition was between District 1, which was the London area, and District 4. So
Midlands.
we'd hear what they're going to drop. So it depends on who came first. So I felt like we needed to come with something, because they know the chorus. So let's put a rhythm on it, let's put a different riff to it, let's put a different lick to it, and just flip it. And so they knew that this came from Elvis, and then now it was... And we crossed them. So we cross-pollinated the worldly beats with the songs, and it just rolled on from there. So it made it interesting, and it was very impacting, I think, especially for a lot of budding musicians, because they just didn't... I mean, we hear the things on the radio, but we just never think about bringing them into the church because it was sacred music. But we brought it across, and it made it more interesting and certainly different.
And I remember Earth, Wind and Fire, and I thought, so I went and checked that Earth, Wind downtown at one of them shops. They played it for me, and it was Virgin White.
Right, yes.
So I just loved the way he just the way he was playing like that staccato. I loved that kind of stuff. So I listened to him. So like
You know, just any chance when you're playing a chorus to drop that in. Me and Trevor would just drop it in there. You know, it was lovely. You know. Then I moved on to. I remember I was at school, and we had this lesson one time, and I went to this girl's house.
You did what?
We had a lesson. So I went to this Jamaican Indian boy named Humphrey Gopi, and I remember going in to his room, and he said, "Glenn, listen to this," and it was Burning and Looting. I wasn't into reggae then, and he played that. He said, "You see this man here, Bob Marley, like a big one there, you know." Then I remember at 75, myself and Ray went to Jamaica with Mum, and Bob Marley was all over the place. And I bought my first album, we put it back in there. And that's it, Family Man. And I couldn't believe what the man was playing. I just couldn't. I used to sit down, and it was in my car, at home, headphones on, of course, listening to it. And man's playing and he's damping in the sound. Sometimes he don't play at all. Then he'll come back in. And it just blew my mind.
My brothers, because they were both musicians, they listened to everything. Particularly like at that time there was Chic and other bands like that, Michael Jackson. They listened to a lot of that, and actually you could hear those influences in church. I was hearing Billie Jean going through one of the songs. I remember one Sunday where some of the elders were upset because they could hear Billie Jean, the bass line of Billie Jean in church, and you kind of wondered yourself, how do you know that's Billie Jean?
I used to have this thought, because I used to hear the songs on the radio, I'm thinking, how do they play the song the same way all the time? I didn't realise that it was records on the radio. I thought they came in, this is so crazy, I thought they came in, set up their music, just to play one song, you know, to play, and it sounded exactly the same as I heard it before, and I thought they'd done that every time, and it didn't click that just as I saw records in my home, it was them same records they were playing on the radio.
We were living on Waterloo Road, 121 Waterloo Road, and one of these 3-storey houses. We lived right up in the top in the attic, and there was a barber shop just at the end, and they'd always have music playing loudly, and the song or songers at the time was Millie, My Boy Lollipop, My Boy Lollipop. So that sort of, you know, beat. So we'd go in the alleyway and we'd dance to, you know, to the music. And the other influence was the Beatles, because they were kind of popular, because all we'd heard up until that point was Chuckwagon Gang,
Jim Reeves,
four-part harmony, Jim Reeves. So every Sunday morning on the Blue Spot Ground, we'd hear Jim Reeves singing.
Right.
And it was very laid-back country, you know, very slow music, or Elvis Presley, but again, just his Christian stuff.
Yeah.
So when we heard kind of upbeat, it was kind of quite exciting, you know, sort of very early on. And then that graduated into the 70s with Andre Crouch coming on the scene. And that was kind of phenomenal for us. Because up until that point, if we had programmes, we'd sing out of
the hymn books.
Hymns of Glorious Praise. Not Hymns of Glorious Praise, sorry. Banner Hymn.
Sacred Songs and Soul.
The Blue Book. So we'd sing the songs our parents would sing. And to overlay that, we'd even dress like our parents. So we were like 10, 11 and wearing hairnet and hats.
All right.
Because, you know, that's what the parents did. That's you know, what we expected. And you couldn't go to church without a hat. And then, you know, as we got to teenage years, the hat was getting a bit too much. So we'd crochet little tams and just perch them. You could barely see the tam in your afro. You know, we'd perch them on the side of our hair. So our world was opened up when Andre Crouch came on the scene,
without doubt,
particularly for the younger folks. So people like Andre Crouch and the spin-offs from him, Billy Thetford, Danny Bell Hall, all those kind of people. So that was the early stages.
I'll never forget the time when I heard, I shouldn't say proper gospel music, but it was like I heard Andre Crouch. I was at the same Mother Clark, her name was. I used to go to her house every Sunday, come down from Willing Hall, go to church, go to the Clarks, spend dinner time, and then go home after evening church. So I was on the settee and somebody had borrowed
It was the best of Andre Crouch, and they was playing it on the gramophone, the record player, and I was kind of half asleep, but I could hear the music, and I heard "Take Me Back" for the first time, and I can tell you from now that I was half asleep, and nobody could see that I was crying my eyes out when I heard that song. When I heard it, I used to hear the church sing it. We'd go to our convocation and come back with some new songs, and one time that was one of the songs. And Walsall, our church always had it's not the knack, but they always sang the song slightly wrong. And you know, with the Jamaican thing, it wasn't "Take Me Back," it was "Takes Me Back." Takes me back, you know, takes me back, and it's pulled out. And I heard this song performed properly in its recording form, and it moved me. It really did. And so I started investigating. There was a record shop in Walsall, Christian record shop. Every chance I got, I bought that album first, then I started buying Andre stuff, Danny Bell, Billy Thedford, all of them, Billy Preston, all of them people. And my focus now on secular music diminished to a fair degree. And I started learning more about gospel music, and I heard the way Andre put his songs together, and it was just amazing. I was absolutely amazed.
In that era, early 80s, we had the Winans, Andre Crouch. I remember the Andre Crouch album probably being one of my biggest influences, the Live in London album, because again, hearing the kind of bass playing, there was a track, I think it was the last track or last to second track called Well Done, which was very jazzy. But then because of Sam Thompson, Steve Thompson, the Majestic guys, they were very into everything that Andre Crouch was doing, Walter Hawkins. So again, I had a bit of a heads up as well, just listening to them. You know, there was a guy at my church, Herman Allen, that he bought all the gospel records. So again, you know, there's that one church that all the youth gravitate to, that church, that house, 65 Minstead Road. So again, you know, just sitting up in his room sometimes, looking at the Hawkins albums, the Love Alive 1, Love Alive 2, and hearing them. All those things were going through my brain subconsciously, so I didn't know, going to Michael Davis's house, hanging out with Errol, you know, with their hi-fi system. So all this stuff was going through me, and I didn't even realise, but I just loved music.
My earliest fond memories actually of our family from a young age is just getting the latest, what we think is the latest music from Dad. Dad used to always bring home some, what were they, the Paradise. And Clark Sisters, Andre Crouch, you know, and he kick-started off us with the new, what was new back then.
Yeah, on a tape then.
Yeah.
I remember winding the tape because the tape was just playing, especially Andre Crouch.
Yeah.
It was just playing till the tape, we had to get a pencil and...
But I don't know if you guys remember, Mum always used to play, I don't know whether, was it Mum or was it Dad? No, I'm sure it was Mum. Fugitive from God.
Yeah, Fugitive.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh, who sang that?
Why don't you turn around? What is it? Can't you see on the Father?
But you know what? The joke is, I remember that tape was a little orange tape.
Orange tape. All the songs were on there. The Andre Crouch, the Paradise, the Clark Sisters. All of them was on that one orange tape.
Our influences around that time were starting to be Andre Crouch.
Beasley.
At one point, I was Danny Bell Hall. I wanted to sing "Take Me Back," and with all those influences, and then after that came Commissioned, came the Winans.
Gone to the Clark Sisters.
Clark Sisters was a big thing, and we just wanted to do something a bit more grown up.
I remember going to Andre Crouch as the main guy. He came several times. It's a bit like modern days now, where they only bring over like Mary and Stitchy, as if they're the only two artists. Back in the day, they used to bring over Andre Crouch quite a lot, and he was at the town hall, and that was gospel music to me. I didn't know anything outside of church, so when you wanted somewhere to go out and you knew Andre Crouch was in concert, you made sure you got your tickets and you was at the Andre Crouch concert up at the town hall. And that gives me a lot of nice memories, being there, always just being in the balcony. It's weird, you used to kind of know, like if you was at either town hall or Digbeth Civic Hall, you knew exactly where your crowd would be sitting. They never done allocated seats. You just get your ticket and sit wherever you want to. And I used to know exactly where the Acock Green people would be sitting, either at town or Digbeth. You know exactly where to find them. And we used to have lots of nice sessions.
There was a concert literally that was taking place pretty much every single weekend. And my mum used to say, every Saturday you've gone to concert. Every minute you've gone to concert. There was that many concerts going on. You could even pick and choose.
That was my going out. So when all my contemporaries at school were going powerhouse and coming back to school and talking about the latest rave and they're wearing the Farahs and stuff, and I'm not. You know something, it kind of, the fact that I had, oh, well, I go out with Highgate Gospel Choir every weekend. You don't know about that, do you?
Because a lot of them.
What's Powerhouse?
They're only in Birmingham.
What are you on about? We're all over the UK. These like didn't come out of Birmingham. There's a big difference. And they still went to their weekenders and stuff. But for the most part, I had something to say. What did you do the weekend? Well, I was in Aldershot. You ever heard of Aldershot?
Jamborees. Oh my gosh, jamborees every new year. You go to church, right? You get yourself all ready. You sleep in the day because you know you're going to be up all night. And then you make your way over to Handsworth New Testament Church of God, where jamborees is rocking. Like it's sweating, it's hot, it smells of patty and chicken and dumpling, and it's just hot and you're cramped like this, you can barely move. Somebody sent me a video the other day of a jamboree, and the video quality is rubbish, but it just completely brought it all back. And you can see them, I'm sure I could see myself scanning across the balcony where you just like this, trying to kind of rock. But that's all you could do because it was just crammed. I don't know. Health and safety, what's that? Oh my gosh. Risk assessments, what's that? It was just like, yeah, amazing, amazing experiences. So yeah, Divine, I'm digressing. Divine, completely, to today, I love Divine to bits. I get excited.
Divine was formed in 1986.
Whoa! We have to talk about what led to that.
Yes. Prior to that, we were singing as a family in Dalton Kerr's choir, which was called Choir Light, and we were all singing together in the choir. And October of that year, Trevor Minto from New Testament, Handsworth, Handsworth were having a concert. Was it Handsworth? No, sorry, it was Highgate. Highgate were having a concert, and Trevor asked me to do some songs at the concert, and I was only 16, and I said, no way. And he says, just think about it. And I said, can I ask my sister to sing with me, Yvonne? And he said, yes, of course. And I spoke to Yvonne, and she says, let's ask Melanie and Marlene if they'll sing with us, because we were all quite young. I was only 16, Yvonne was 20, and the twins were only 15. So she said, yeah, let's, and I said, well, who are we going to ask to play? I said, well, that's Duke and Paul and Jason, because they were already playing for the choir. Yeah. So we said, well, just ask the guys to play for us. And it was quite funny. We sang at the concert.
My.
No,
it wasn't What Is This.
No, it was What Is This. It was What Is This.
This?
What Is This? And the reaction of the crowd kind of shocked us.
Yeah.
We were like, what? It was like, what's all the fuss about? And I was completely shocked at how the congregation responded. And we were so excited as well. We didn't even finish the song.
No, we didn't.
We kind of just put the mic down and come down.
It was so innocent.
Yeah, it was like, okay. They like that. So we just kind of put the mic down and come down, and the reaction was just, we were not expecting it at all.
We were not expecting it.
Because we still don't hear what people hear.
You guys, you know.
Yeah. And from then, we started getting more invites, and like Marlene would say, we need to have a name, and like it was Marlene who came up with the name Divine. So yeah, Marlene. From about October '86, Divine was formed, and the rest is history.
Yeah. They were just like me, but they you know, they'd come in and they'd looked like me, but they'd go up there and smash it, and I'd be just like, who are these girls, kind of thing. And if I heard that Divine was going to be there, I was going to be there along with Agape. And so yeah, it was like Divine used to completely blow my mind.
I ended up doing some work with Divine, did a lot of recording with Divine on a few of their albums. Duke Kerr, who's an amazing songwriter, wrote It Is To You. It is to you I give the glory. And I was the one who did the lead vocal on that, on the recording. And then what was amazing was Donnie McClurkin got hold of the song and literally claimed that he wrote it. He didn't. He claimed that he wrote it, and then he recorded it along with another American artist that recorded it. Thankfully, Duke got the credit that it was due. But what I found was really flattering was that Donnie McClurkin was basically doing the licks that I do on the original recording. I thought, oh, they say that imitation is the highest form of flattery, so I'll take that. I'll take that.
Black voices have always blown me away. I think that they are an amazing set of young women, strong black women, and I think that they are truly, truly amazing. Love them. I'm biased to Celia because actually Celia and I went to school together. I was her form prefect, so she was always someone that I looked out for and loved to this day, and that will never change. Carol, all of them, upstanding, wonderful representative of beautiful, talented blackness that I'm very proud of.
I had the opportunity to see a lot of choral singing, lots of folk groups and stuff. And then one day I had the opportunity to go and see Sweet Honey in the Rock, an a cappella group from the States who were touring in the UK. And I went all the way to Liverpool, to the Blackie, to see them. And just moved to tears. Didn't know that pure voices on stage for 2 hours non-stop could be so moving. And just came back and started thinking, there's nothing like that here in the UK. We haven't got an a cappella group here in the UK. So at the time, as well as being an arts administrator, I used to do a lot of backing singing for a lot of pop bands. And that entailed me actually coming to this very space, Grosvenor Road Studios, to record backing vocals for a lot of Birmingham-based bands. So yeah, Black Voices really grew out of the experience of seeing Sweet Honey on the stage, Sweet Honey in the Rock, and me being a backing vocalist and, you know, recording backing vocalists with many bands. Just the harmonies that we used to put together for different bands. Back in the day, the bands that we were around were like Level 42. Ruby Turner was doing her thing at the Fighting Cocks. Before UB40 were UB40, they just used to jam reggae anywhere and you could just join in, kind of thing. So it's a long time. It's a long way back, I think. There was also Fine Young Cannibals. They were a band. Yeah, these all sound so foreign now. But yeah, there was a very lively music scene in Birmingham, and you could always find a gig where you could do backing singing and get a £5 or your taxi fare.
I'll never forget the time I heard Wesley sing. It was at a jamboree concert in Gloucester Street, and I just remember being absolutely blown away by their vocals, like their singing ability.
So like 1988 was when Claudette James was still part of the group. So it was initially it was 4 of us. And then it then Claudette went off to down south, and it ended up being the 3 of us. And remember our name, we didn't settle easily on Wesley, but we sort of deliberately chose Wesley because we wanted people to know that we were from the Wesleyan Church. Yeah. So we didn't want to call ourselves Wesleyan,
with a Z.
But it was Wesley with a Z. Thank you very much.
We went to this concert in, can I say the name of the church? So it was Aberdeen Street, Church of God Prophecy, and I don't know how they got us to sing there, but anyway, they called out Holyhead. And funny enough, ladies were sat either side of me like they are now, and they called Holyhead about 2 times. And I said, okay, no, nobody stood up. And I said, right, I said, girls, if they call Holyhead again, that's us. So they did. So got up into the mic and stuff and said, praise the Lord, like we do, praise the Lord again. And we are Wesleyan Holiness Church from Holyhead, and the whole place just rolled in laughter. and that's where Prophecy started to just support
they really
our ministry.
Embraced us.
They embraced us a lot more than even our own denomination. To be fair, weddings, galore, BBCC Winans, with a Purita concert, and they start playing, Lost Without You or something, to just give us recognition that we were in the house. So nicknames were like Wesley on Vogue as well. We were called Wesley on Vogue for an arrangement that we did. So Prophecy really, really supported us a lot, and credit to them, and it's really, good established our ministry there. Yeah.
And the same for Divine, and the same for Priscilla Jones, like just somebody that just grabs you here, like just like, I want to be able to sing like that. Like, they're amazing. Like, those are the people that inspired me growing up from the West Midlands. You see them on the bill, you want to be there, you want to hear them.
Priscilla Jones. Even when we was in Jones and Carter, I used to say to Priscilla, I says, when you're older, I think Priscilla was about 14 when we was in Jones and Carter. And I used to say to Priscilla, you're going to be great. If you ever went solo, you're going to be big. You're going to be so big. You're going to be incredible. Oh, no, I'm not. I said, yes, you are. Because what people don't realise is that Priscilla and Beverly Knight, they were more or less going to the same church. But Beverly was always, I think Beverly was always trying to be like Priscilla, because Priscilla was at a higher level, even from that age. So I remember being on the plane, doing the Lighthouse Family, and we was going to Rotterdam or Amsterdam or somewhere to do a show. And Priscilla says to me, I've wrote this song. I'm thinking of doing an album, so I've wrote this song. And I said, okay. She goes, I'll sing it to you. And when she sang it to me, I just started crying, because her voice and the way she sang it, and it just caught me off guard. And I says, if you need me to play on your album, I'll do it for free. Anything. It was just an amazing voice, very articulate in her words, just her approach, everything, her spirits. It just smashed me up.
So my original band would have been me, Jeffrey Kennedy, Peter Cunningham, and Bunny Dryden, drums. We were called Clouds. Actually, I could tell you a funny story about Clouds. So Clouds, we had a singer called Leighton Plummer.
It was quite adventurous and controversial as well, because at the time I was the only one who was from my local church, which was Chapel Street at the time. And all the other, myself and Bunny were from Chapel Street, and all the others were from different local churches in Prophecy. And that really wasn't the done thing. You shouldn't really be mixing. Even though we were all Prophecy, they still didn't like it.
People knew we could play, because we had a band, and people knew we could play, and we were going to play at this concert. And people tried to sabotage us. They thought, no, we can't have these guys. So on the actual concert, we were introduced as clowns. And we have clowns on stage. And our band name was Clouds.
And sort of people sort of looking around thinking, and I was looking thinking, should I go up? Because it's not us, it's someone else.
And I won't name the guy, because he's actually a good friend of mine now. Brother Bishop Eldred, Joseph Eldred.
And he just started beckoning us to come up, and I got up there and I says, no, it's not the clowns, it's clouds. And he says, oh, clowns, okay, yes, I remember clowns. And I says, no, clouds. Obviously, you know, West Indians not being able to pronounce and say things properly is calling us clowns rather than clouds. But, you know, fun when you're looking back at it, but at the time, it wasn't.
That was my first band and my favourite band. And to this day, these are my favourite human beings on the earth.
There's one jamboree where the worship team, you know, but the choristers, I should probably call them, that were at Handsworth Church, they started singing, Divine went and sang My Lord is Sweet. Could the song finish? Like, it was going on, my Lord is sweet, 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 sweet. It went on for ages. I think this video that I saw, they showed that clip as well, and they couldn't stop singing. I'll never forget that. Because everyone was just like rocking, and it was like, you know that when you did the reggae thing and it was duh, 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 everybody just loved it. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, you know, you felt a bit edgy because you're doing a bit of reggae in church. But yeah, I think that's one of my memories of Jamboree anyway. And most of them, I just saw it as, it was a time of exposure for a lot of people, a lot of talent. Some people now, like, are artists in their own right that started out in Jamboree. Do you mean, like, you know, like the likes of Jerome Buckner and Dean Thomas and just to mention a couple. Yeah, they've just kind of gone on to do big things. Musicians like Joshua Bailey and Michael Davis, who's worked with loads of people, Steve Thompson. Like, that's where they all started out. Do you know what I mean? And now they've gone on to do great, great things. So I kind of, when I think back, I'm like, I see what they're doing now, and I look and I go, I've known them for donkey's years, and I know and I saw where they started, and I just feel such a sense of pride. Sometimes when you see people on television, and it's just like, yeah, I know them. I know when they first started out. Do you know what I mean? It's good. It's all good. I just feel so proud.
One of the things that events that I definitely would have to say that was amazing was I went to a jamboree, me and my brother. I was about 18, must be the golden year, and we went to this place called Heathtown, New Testament. They had a jamboree. Fortunately, when you go to small churches, you can say to pastor, "Me gone, brethren." You know what I'm saying? I say, no, me gone early. But the people that go to bigger churches, they had to stay at church and have to do their thing. So we left out, said goodbye to everybody, and I went with the Edward sisters down. Me and my brother jumped in their car in a Fiesta. I think Beverly was driving, and we went down to Heathtown. We was the first one there as they opened the doors. Bam! 4th row back. Yeah, and this is when you know, say Birmingham was serious, man. You've got, I'm looking around, and you've got Lindsley Campbell, you've got Mark Willis, you've got like you got other night you had For Real, you had Destiny, you had New Life, and I never forget the intro to For Real. Lindsley, bad boy bass player, but yo, he was doing some things on the vocoder, and it was like, wow, shit, and it's like it's just like and I'm thinking, we in church with a vocoder, man sticking things in his mouth, like say it's a big, massive, and the capacity that we never realized what we had, brethren. We had some stupid level musicians that were off the Richter scale.
That I've listened to and gone like, wow, I'll never forget the first time I heard Lindsley Campbell. he destroyed my ears, you know, he really did. He was playing for Carl Riley, and I believe it was a concert at Aberdeen Street, again, somewhere around the back end of the 80s, 90s. And first of all, Lindsley had a look with his hair that was, you know, it had like it wasn't quite a quiff, but it was like, yeah, and kind of something. And I thought, okay, so that was cool. And then he had his Vigia bass, which was a headless bass. And that, again, was ahead of his time. And the dude, man, seriously, absolutely amazing. and you know, it's back then as a younger guy, you're shook. There's no two ways about it. You're like, wow, I need to, I need to up my game, yeah. And it's not to compete in a negative sense, but it's more inspiration from that point of view in terms of all that. Yeah, okay. You go home and you work on your bass and you go and and you've probably had that effect on somebody. Because funny, Lindsay and I was talking the one time, and I was exchanging this story with him, and he was exchanging stuff about when I played that stuff that I didn't even remember from when I was young. So
another young man by the name of Lindsley Campbell started to blow up as a remixing and producing for a whole slew of artists in the music industry. Lindsley was somebody who I'd known from about the age of about 12, 13. Again, a bass player who was phenomenal.
Robin met a guitarist by the name of Joseph Ross, and then it became me, Robin and Joseph were a group of musicians, and we'd do like the little circuit, and then we were fortunate we joined a band because Joseph had rich talents from Wolverhampton, so like with Paul Reid, the late great Paul Reid, and Beverly Knight and Louis Williams and Darren Williams, all those musicians. So it was all kind of interconnected. So me, Joseph and Robin were very, very much heavily influenced by Commission, and we thought we were the English version of Commission, and we joined up with a group by the name of Plain Truth with Delroy Hutchinson and his brothers, and we put on. We had a great time. We used to go to London to play. We put on 2 concerts ourselves at Aberdeen Street, which was, really well received. And literally, my love for music just growed.
I decided, now we need to start a group. We need to get a group going, and Commission was the model for that group. So we started a group, and it was called Plain Truth. And originally started in Firstborn Church, and it was some brothers and I in that church that was singing. So it was myself, one of my eldest brothers, Clinton, my other brother Clifton, who was the keyboardist and main songwriter, and there was my brother-in-law. Now he's actually my brother-in-law, Norman Comrie. He's now Bishop Comrie. And Carl Williams, and we got together and started singing, and we were writing our own songs, and bumped into Robin Watson, good friend, someone I consider to be a brother. Bumped into him. We did a lot of work with his sister, his late sister Hazel, late great Hazel Watson, and we used to sing with her, doing backing vocals and what have you. But things developed in that. Robin heard us singing and he wanted to be part of it, and we got together, joined forces, and Dave Gibbons came on as a drummer, Joseph Ross came in as our guitarist, and my brother was playing keys, and it was me on vocal, lead vocal and backing vocal. My new brother-in-law was Andre Bromfield. He came in and was singing lead vocal and backing vocal, and my brother Clinton and Carl Williams, and we did pretty well for 4 boys, a group of young men out of Handsworth and surrounding areas, and we ended up going around to churches all around Birmingham, and then outside of Birmingham to London and Derby, basically all around the country. Later on, a chap by the name of Michael Bennett joined in, and he played sax with us, and we ended up doing a little tour around Devon, accompanied by the late great Paul Reid. He had his group New Life, and he toured with us around Devon. It was an amazing experience that was born out of that education we all had in church. But listen, I make no bones about it, and I'll just be totally honest. We loved Commission, and we were basically emulating what they did. And we did 1 or 2 covers of their tracks, but for the most part, we wrote our own songs. And it was very unusual at the time because everyone was doing covers, but we were insistent on writing our own songs, and we'd supplement them with 1 or 2 covers from commissioned and or the Winans.
Plain truth, we did 2 really good concerts at Aberdeen Street, sold out each time, packed out each time. And the mindset was to put on a concert that, you know, that could cater for everybody. So the first year we did it, and I know we had, you know, New Life, which was Louis, Paul Reid, Darren on bass, and those guys, by the way, Darren Williams, oh my goodness. You know, so they would do the first half and then we'd do the second half. And then the following year, we tried to branch it out a bit further, thinking, okay, now how can we expand this? And looking back, actually, as teenagers, because we were in our teens, looking back then, and that's like late teens come to early 20s, looking back then, what we were trying to do is, I guess, what happens now in terms of intermingling the denominations, trying to get people to come together. So we had a group, I think they were called Alliance, from Seventh Day, 6 guys who were very much of a Take 6 kind of vibe, because you know what the word on the street was, you know, vocally Seventh Day and Seventh Day Adventists had it going on. So these guys come in. So there was a good blend. So in my head, or in our head at the time was, okay, we've got Take 6, we've got Commission, so we've now got somebody else. I think we had a soloist, which was Jennifer Phillips. So again, it was just trying to position things, and yeah, we're in our late teens. This was the sort of things we sit down and discuss, and the sort of things I'd say, well, it's like putting on Commission, Take 6 and whatever. That's a good blend. You're going to get people come from Seventh Day to support these guys. You're going to get Prophecy supporting, you know, obviously Plain Truth and others, and Jennifer's got her own front. So it was these sort of things. And again, it was a good concert. Got those on VHS, by the way. And both times we had a great time. You know, people came, they enjoyed it, and it was like, but we had no guidance in terms of where the band could go.
Plain Truth ceased to be because it was me. It was my fault that Plain Truth ceased to be. I had a bit of a conviction in my heart about the direction of it, and in retrospect, I think that it was a mistake, and it was something that I'm totally honest about. I think that it had an impact on my brothers, like Robin and Dave and Joseph, and even myself and everyone else. And it was my fault. I'll take the rap for that. But it was a mistake from where I was stood, and yet I can see how God had His hand in it.
I was able to join forces with a lot of some fantastic singers. Gloria Brown, my cousin, she was foremost amongst them as a singing partner and as somebody who's singing I absolutely admired. We went to the same church, Peel Street. She had a reputation, by the way, coming from the same place I came from in Jamaica, in Top Mountain, Paul Mountain. She there used to sing and was a bit of a sensation out there. I hadn't known that until I came to England. So she and I teamed up. She had a much better voice. And then after a while we created groups. There were also choirs being created. And there was an explosion of singing and music.
Where I learned to sing, the person that really sort of like fed in, who really mentored me, was Gloria Brown.
Absolutely.
The first time she heard me sing, you can't sing, I was gutted, absolutely gutted, but she saw potential in me.
She didn't ramp.
No, she didn't ramp, and she was a great teacher. She was just absolutely, she's the reason why I can sing the way that I can sing. And it's because of her and her faith in me. I used to think I could sing, but she taught me how to sing, how to belt it out. It's not like now with auto-tuning. We had to sing, because in them days you had one mic between 100
Absolutely.
people. You know what I mean?
And electric guitars.
Yeah,
and a drum.
exactly.
So you had to be able to project your voice.
You had to project your voice. Absolutely. And you had to sing. And I'm glad for those days. I am really glad that
aspect taught me how to sing. So she taught me how to sing.
I've actually got the distinction of, as part of a group with Gloria Brown, Pat McCalla, Joy Watson, also sadly deceased, and others, Marcia Simpson, as she was then, Anne Oliver, playing with like Anne's brother David, Trevor Prince also became part of the musical group. We had a tangential group with Ozzie Williams and Wayne Williams. Wayne was a fantastic bass player, Ozzie was a fantastic rhythm guitarist, but mostly lead guitar player. We actually went and made a record, an LP. We made the LP with all 12 songs in one day. My goodness, from early in the morning to late at night.
What was my first experiences of music? Well, I guess I've got to go back to one group jumps to mind, Spiritual Rhythm.
One of the key things that happened that I still remember is we were thought of so highly in the church. This is now Spiritual Rhythm. We were thought of so highly for our singing that we were entered into the show at the time that profiled new and upcoming artists with, I'm sure it was Laurie Green. Was his name Laurie Green? I think it's Laurie Green, with Opportunity Knocks. We actually auditioned, the Spiritual Rhythm auditioned for Opportunity Knocks, and we did well. For a time it sounded as if, from what they were saying, that we were through. We certainly went through a couple of rounds and we thought we had actually got through to get on TV, but in the end it never materialized. But the experience though of being there and being part of that must be similar to what young people now enjoy when they spend a whole day trying to get on one of these programs that could profile them to the world. So fantastic.
We sang like quartet-y kind of songs, them Dorothy Norwood songs,
I want
the
to walk
Barrett
and talk with Jesus.
the Barrett sisters. We sang those type of songs and with her. So it was all about the harmonies. And so there was Gloria Brown, there was Maxine Wright, her daughter, and Beverly Brown, her daughter, and then there was myself. And at one point there was we called her Charlie, but I think her proper name was Phyllis.
Yeah.
And I think we were called like the Voices of Prophecy. And so we sang, so we went touring around the whole of England, singing. And those were amazing days. I remember we got pulled over by the police in London, and we had on our long dresses.
Really?
We got pulled over. So you can imagine how they took us to get out of the car, and then we are getting out. You just see this long maxi flowing pleated skirt. That picture with, I think you've got that picture of Spiritual Rhythm. Yeah. We had on those dresses.
Oh, like the blue one.
The blue one with the polka dots. You can imagine we're coming out of the car, and you know Gloria had that Triumph car,
that low car.
That was it was funny and embarrassing at the same time. Yeah, we got pulled over by the police.
Did you get a ticket?
No, we didn't get a ticket, but they weren't nice policemen. So anyway, forget about that.
Gloria's singing has enthralled so many congregations and settings, in conventions, in those town hall and Digworth Hall conventions that we had. She told me once that when she was younger and having come to England, that one of the major record labels heard about her, which is quite believable because she had a remarkable voice, and came to her, sought her out, tracked her down. They obviously must have listened to her somewhere and tried to sign her. But such was the cultural stranglehold, if you like, that church and our expression and understanding of faith had on her at that time, that those around her refused to allow her to sign and to become a professional singer. Lord only knows, when I look and listen to some of the great singers, mostly from America, but also from this country, and I know deep down that Gloria Brown had a voice that was in no way inferior to some of those voices. You know, I'm thinking of people like Gladys, Beverly Knights, for example, from Wolverhampton. Thinking of Gladys Knights from the States, but some of the great singers over time. I think the closest she comes actually is to the Clark sisters, is that kind of style and that kind of range, fantastic range. If she had got hooked up with a recording company, heaven only knows where she could have got to, because the sky genuinely would have been the limit for her. And in some ways, although she has been a tremendous blessing and an asset within the Church of God of Prophecy and slightly outside, maybe the New Testament Church of God and one or two others, I think had she been let loose on the world through getting a contract, I think that she would have been one of the icons, singing icons of her time.
Because from choirs then formed groups, didn't
Absolutely.
they?
Yeah.
Naturally.
Yeah. They did,
you didn't have groups and then choirs.
And then the soloists get formed.
Exactly.
Then the worship leaders.
Absolutely.
Because Noel, he was...
oh my gosh,
he was he choir director?
He was the choir director for Tubbs Road.
Yeah. Then he formed his group. What was it called?
Psalms.
He did ask me to join, you know. But I did leave London by then.
Yes, she weren't in the group. She wasn't in the group. Woulda, shoulda, coulda. Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
It was him that invited me on the national worship team.
Well, there you go.
Although he tells me he got a lot of grief about it.
Oh dear.
She won't be here.
She won't be
here when she's singing. No, not really. Love him though.
Yeah.
But
He was Psalms, look where he is. Look where he
absolutely.
is now. You know,
Absolutely.
He's ploughed the ground and look where he is now. He's on par with any of the worship leaders internationally.
Yes, indeed.
So,
indeed.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We feel proud that he's come from us.
Yeah. Yeah, and that you're part of his legacy of when nationally he was our national worship leader and national choir director. You know, what you see him doing now, he was doing back then.
Exactly.
So he was before his time,
Definitely.
to be fair.
Yeah.
And equally, he always worked in partnership with Karen as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And Kim. So it's really good to see that richness still lives on.
My choir experience started in International Firstborn Church. And it was rich because we were closely affiliated with John Francis and his choir, which was the Inspirational Choir. Inspirational Choir recorded with Madness on a track called On the Wings of a Dove. And so the backing vocals on there, that's Inspirational Choir. And my brother ended up playing for Inspirational on different concerts and tours. And on occasion, I'd get the opportunity to sing with them. But I remember our choir in Birmingham would sing, and then when there was conventions, Inspirational would come and amalgamate with our choir and we'd sing there. And so probably about 15, 16, that's when I sang for the first time a lead vocal with the choir, and John Francis was surprised at my voice because I didn't really make a big deal of it to anyone. And his choir director, what's his name? His name is eluding me, and if he ever sees this, he'll kill me. But anyway, Clive. Yeah, Clive. Clive was the most amazing choir director, dynamic, very charismatic, and he heard it, and they had me sing a few lead vocals to some choir events. Clive Brown. And out of that choir, you're talking about monsters in the gospel community like Sarah Brown, who ended up being one of the vocalists with, what's her name? Moving on. What's her name? Yeah.
She did that gig in it, and she's gone, and she's just releasing that Mahalia Jackson.
That's right. What's her name? I can't remember her name. Old age, man. I can't remember the name.